crazy boy, get cool boy. Welcome back to It's a Wonderful Podcast, and if you can't tell already, we're finally taking it to the musicals, and with me today is my good friend and co-host who has just seen this great musical for the first time. It's Morgan Robinson. How you doing, buddy?
Hello everyone. I'm actually very, very pleased today. I'm very happy for having seen West Side Story for the first time. That is what we're doing today. West Side Story is great. I loved West Side Story. I liked it so much more than I actually thought I was going to. We'll get into all that. This was Nolan's choice. He chose well, everyone. He chose well.
I think it's like the first time on this show I have chosen well.
No, you've always chosen well. We've not done a bad one yet.
That's fair. So before I get into why I chose West Side Story, I just want to go quick thoughts. What did you expect from it, and what did you get out from it?
I knew it was modernized New York-based Romeo and Juliet already. I knew it was that. What I expected out of it was a love story with a few, song and dance numbers thrown in. What I didn't expect was all the other stuff that's in there. Like, the extent of racial themes. Didn't expect that. I didn't expect to be so blown away by the dance numbers themselves. And I also, although I knew quite a few of the songs that were in there just from knowing the songs, didn't actually realise they were songs from West Side Story. So
really?
That was quite pleasant as well.
Well, you said your favourites were Maria and America. Do you not know those were West Side Story?
I didn't know they was. I honestly couldn't have said that they were from West Side Story. I'd know them as musical songs.
Well, I'll get into why I chose this. Now, I love musicals. They're probably one of my favorite genres out there, and they're kind of like an underdog genre because everyone thinks, oh, it's a musical, it's silly, it's fun, you can't really get a lot of great stuff from it. But when I was studying GCSE music, way back when I was a little nipper, my music teacher, Miss Sinker, who was fantastic, if she's listening to this now, hey, you got your shout out. We were studying the composition of Something's Coming from West Side Story, and this was my first exposure into seeing musicals as being something more. And I then just fell in love with the whole soundtrack. I watched the movie. There was a TV show I watched called Glee growing up, where they do whole episodes dedicated to West Side Story, and it's awesome. And I'm still trying to find a way to see the stage show, and I'm kind of curious about what Spielberg is planning to do with it for his updated version. We'll probably talk about that. But as a theater kid, this is just kind of my perfect movie. So we'll lead on with that.
From that, I gather that West Side Story is sort of the first musical you fell in love with, so to speak.
Well, kind of. I mean, I'd always liked musicals. I was one of those guys who liked High School Musical when it was coming out. I liked Grease when I first saw it. I loved The Wizard of Oz, but West Side Story is the first time I really appreciated the art of a musical, more so than just enjoying it for a bit of fun.
Yeah, I get that. I'm a musical fan as well. Like I said at the end of the last episode, when we mentioned that we were doing West Side Story for this episode, and I admitted to having not seen it yet, I said I am a fan of musicals. It just so happens that this one somehow slipped through, and it's like one of the most successful musicals of the 20th century. So I don't know how it necessarily slipped through until less than 12 hours ago, but. But it did. It did, and I'm very thankful I've seen it now. I was gonna say that my first musical love, so to speak, was Oliver from 1968.
Well, that's also a great one.
And I will be the only person who will ever tell you that Oliver deserved to win the Best Picture in 1968. I don't care
I'll
what
be
anybody says. It's wonderful. It's delightful. I'll put it on even today and sing it all the way through. So I assume I have a similar relationship with that you do to West Side Story.
Yeah, I mean, I like that you bring up Oliver because that was one of the first musicals I saw like as a kid, and I can only remember a couple numbers from it. But when I'm thinking Oliver Twist, I'm either reading the book or watching a
Yes,
movie.
well,
That's probably something I should revisit in the future. Maybe we'll even do that on the show. Who knows?
it's more than eligible for this show. Maybe we will do it. I'd
Def-
like to do it. I definitely would.
yeah, but back to West Side Story. Leonard Bernstein, the guy who composed the music for this, I love how there's such a variety of music in this because immediately we open with I don't know what was on your copy of this, but there's a kind of a long shot where it's just animations, and then we get into a big dance number with the jets and the sharks, and they're not even doing much stuff either. They're just walking around whistling and snapping their fingers. And then we're introduced to our main characters, who are Tony and Maria, who are basically Romeo and Juliet, but it adds to the formula of the Romeo and Juliet kind of thing, but also adding this really cool little commentary on Latinos coming to America and that sort of racism angle that you can face from it. And let's be honest, we'll get this out of the way. Natalie Wood is about as Latino as I am,
and as I am. Natalie Wood is perhaps as Latino as I am Japanese.
Jesus.
She couldn't be further from being Latino, but there's a surprising amount of that. I feel because the guy who plays Bernardo as well, he's from like Ohio, and it's just like okay. I mean, they give good performances. You can't discredit their performances, but it can kind of be off-putting sometimes. But it's at least for looking at the rest of the film, it's sort of I'm able to look past it if that doesn't sound so awful.
I get that because even on Broadway, they cast these kind of actors to play these roles all the time, and you get a lot of remakes on Broadway with these shows anyway. So the more versions of West Side Story I can see, I'll be happy to, because even watching the Glee cast do it for that show is really fun. Watching this movie from the 60s is really fun, and I'm sure watching the show live on stage would be even better.
Yeah.
And I just discovered this recently. I've just realized that currently we're in a stage in Hollywood where these kind of culturally relevant stories are coming more into fruition. I mean, Black Panther just crossed $1 billion. And with Spielberg doing a West Side Story remake in the future, is it possible we could get a version of the story that has these Latina actors who can actually sing? Because in West Side Story, Natalie Wood and the guy who plays Tony aren't singing. They had other people overdub the singing voices.
I mean, that's normal for a musical of the time, really. Unless you're Julie Andrews or whatever. That's kind of, expected.
Yeah, but it makes me think, like, this story's pretty timeless, so I think that feeds into its appeal, and maybe nowadays we could get a more updated version of West Side Story that actually celebrates Latino culture. But we'll get right into some of the musical numbers here.
Yes.
So what was your favorite? Let's talk about that.
First on your point that you were just saying, I love the fact that it's got that overture at the start with just the animation and then the shots of Manhattan from bird's eye. I love that. I think all musicals of that time should have proper overtures and be staged like that, so that's great. The opening dance number, like you said, not a great deal happens, but it's kind of just mesmerising to watch. It's a really good way to start off a film, and I know that the film had two directors, basically. The guy who directed the theatre production, the original, directed all the dance numbers and whatnot, and then Robert Wise, who is a madnessly talented director. also did The Haunting just 2 years later after West Side Story. He directed the actor scenes, the acting. But my single favourite song, I think, is America. Purely,
It is.
purely,
It
yeah,
is one of the best ones.
purely because, like I said, going into West Side Story, not having seen it before, I was aware of the Romeo and Juliet, aspect, but I was not aware just quite how much of a racially, or quite how much racial themes were going to be in there. And America is the perfect song because it's just like one group of the Puerto Ricans are like, America's great, what are you talking about? The other one is just like, is it though? And it's just that back and forth throughout the entire song, and I just thought that's a great commentary on what immigration must have been like for Latinos at the time into New York. I think it's a perfect musical song. I've got to say it's probably one of my favourite songs from a musical, purely because what of it says outside the realm of musicals.
And I believe your other one was Maria, right?
Maria I liked because it was just a big, nice, oh, I'm in love with a girl named Maria. And it's just all that, and it's just so nice and sweet. And the guy who plays Tony reminded me shockingly of Orson Welles.
I can see that, actually. He does have that kind of boyish charm about him.
I mean, obviously I didn't think it was Orson Welles. I know this was 20 years after Citizen Kane and whatnot, but did Orson Welles have a lost child somewhere who played Tony in West Side Story? Maybe it was this guy.
We're starting theories now.
I forget the actor's name, but he was great. But yeah, the song Maria I did like as well. After they meet at that dance, and yeah, it's a really sweet song. Not as necessarily thematically strong as America, but easier to sing.
Well, there's a couple numbers here that I love that also kind of have interesting facts behind them. And I'll start off with one of the most unlikely songs here to be your favorite, because it's kind of just really chilled out and kind of fun, and that's Cool, which takes place like quite a way into the movie. But the interesting thing is that in the stage show, it's actually Riff who sings that song right before the big fight with Bernardo.
Okay.
And they change it in this movie to, there's a character who's created specifically for it. I think his name's Ice, and instead he's singing Cool. It doesn't really affect the story much, but it's just such a kind of fun and infectious pop kind of song. And right after this, if you feel like it, go and check out the Glee cover of that song, because there's this actor called Harry Shum Jr. who just comes on and owns that completely, because it's kind of like a song where you don't really need a great range vocally to sing it, but it's still pretty good.
Yeah, that's the song. Obviously, gonna delve into a bit of the plot, I would expect at some point. That's the song, like, right after there has been a particular death.
We can talk about that death.
Is that the song that I'm thinking of?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to talk? Do you want to go through the plot a bit?
Well,
just to give people a bit of a.
The plot is basically Romeo and Juliet. You have this guy,
yeah,
Tony, who's he works in a I think it's like a bar kind of store thing, and he's in love with this girl called Maria, who's who's Puerto Rican and the sister of the leader of the Sharks. And Tony, of course, is a former Jet, and it's like two rival gangs. And he meets Maria at a dance. They fall in love pretty quickly, which usually I would
very
hate,
quickly.
But for a musical, it works.
It does work for a musical, Think of all musicals that incorporate romance somehow. The romance always happens within the blink of an eye, and literally they see each other on opposite sides of a dance floor. It's that stereotypical, guys. They see each other on opposite sides of a dance floor. The rest, I loved what the camera did in that shot in particular. It just completely lost focus of everything else and just focused it on the two outlines of Maria and Tony themselves, whilst all the music of the dance is going on and all the singing and whatnot. And they just come together, and I mean, it kicks off there for a bit with Bernardo, who, by the way, I would be remiss if I didn't point out Bernardo's exceptional outfit that he wears.
His red jacket.
His red jacket, yes, his red jacket. It was very rebel without a cause, I must say.
You can see why I picked this, then.
I can. It's very, well, Natalie Wood and then another guy in a red jacket. It all just makes sense. His purple shirt and black suit is exactly how I would like to dress every day, but would not be able to pull it off as well as that guy.
Just walk around Manchester snapping your fingers wearing that.
I do sometimes walk around snapping my fingers and then get like funny looks off people because they think I'm, calling them something. I don't know. I really don't.
But yeah,
I might start doing it more.
Yeah, but back to that song, "Cool." It's weirdly a kind of. I know this sounds weird because of the title, but it's a cool off kind of song after all the intensity that's happened before, and it kind of brings the gangs together, which I find really cool.
Yeah, it kind of does. It's okay. Let's get into it. Let's say what happened just before "Cool" then.
Well, in the stage play, it would happen right before.
Right.
But what happens is Tony says, "Let's have a fair fight. Whoever wins, I don't know, gets to take Maria out. That classic little cliche." But you can tell Tony really doesn't want to be back in the Jets. He's trying to make a good life for himself, but he feels forced back into it. And during this fight, Bernardo gets a little bit too violent. He ends up stabbing Tony's best friend, Riff, who tragically dies, and then Tony, in retaliation, stabs him back. So he's just killed the girl he loves brother and lost his best friend all in the same night.
It's not a good 5-minute period for Tony.
Oh, no.
It's no, it's not.
And then it follows on with that song "Cool."
Yeah, and "Cool" can be taken in both ways. Cool as in let's calm down and just realise that this has all got a bit too violent now. Because you've seen the gang war, so to speak, that's just been building up this crescendo all to the point of Bernardo and Riff's stabbings. And it seems like, I think after that was a really vital change in the whole film, where it just turned into almost more of a, oh God, we've gone too far. And then obviously in the end, other things happen in the end, but the gangs themselves sort of get a bit more, nice to each other, a bit nicer to each other. But that's how I see the song "Cool," at least. Anyway, I see it as sort of, let's calm down, this has got a bit violent now.
Yeah, and the other song that I really love is Tony's solo near the beginning, "Something's Coming." Not only because I studied it, but if you listen to the composition and the way Leonard Bernstein composes it, and the lyrics and everything, and how charismatic he is about it, and how kind of ambiguous it is that it's setting up the story events, it's a great song. I would put that in top 5 musical songs.
Really?
If those lists existed. Yeah, if I was auditioning for a West Side Story, that would be my go-to song.
Well, I mean, you're the one who's studied it, so I can't really argue against. But it's a good song. It's definitely one that, like you said, quite vaguely and ambiguously sets up the story points it does let you know that something good is coming, and well,
But at a cost.
but at a cost. And yeah, that is pretty much exactly the whole plot. And obviously, if you know Romeo and Juliet, that's also exactly the plot of Romeo and Juliet. Something good might come, but of course at a cost. It's sort of like the first time we meet Tony, and then he just goes into that song, isn't it?
Yeah, and you mentioned something interesting trivia-wise about this that I think would have...
Yes.
I would have liked to have seen this version of it, but originally Elvis Presley was to play Tony.
Yeah, I always like to bring the trivia to proceedings. That's the only piece of trivia we have for today, by the way, unless you've got any, which you might have. I don't know.
Just the one about Riff dying a bit too early before he could sing "Cool" because Riff's meant to sing that in the stage show.
But yeah, apparently Robert Wisey's first choice for Tony was Elvis, and I love Elvis films, so I would have kind of, cause they're all like quite bad, but they're great because Elvis is in them and he's singing, and it's just nice because it's Elvis, and I could really see Elvis in the role of Tony. I like knockoff Orson Welles. I'm a big fan of knockoff Orson Welles, but after I read that, I was just sort of imagining what the film would have been like with Elvis in it. Definitely, I think. Well, we mentioned the overdubbing of singing, which is usual and always tends to happen, but that wouldn't have needed to be the case if Elvis was in it.
True, but then again, I'm also thinking, would that be a bit distracting for the audience? Because Elvis was pretty big around then, and
Elvis was ridiculously... Yes, that's true. Early 60s, yeah.
And all the other actors kind of like blend into their characters. I think if you just have a moment where, here's our main character, Elvis, it kind of...
Yeah, I guess. I don't know why Elvis wasn't necessarily a part. I don't know whether he said no or whether the studio went, wait a minute, let's not get Elvis. This isn't an Elvis film.
I think he was just too busy eating peanut butter fried banana sandwiches. Or
not at that
makes.
time. Oh, Elvis was still a strapping young man in the early 60s.
Yes. And the other numbers I feel like I have to mention.
Yeah, let's go for it.
G Officer Krupke.
That's a weird one.
And I Feel Pretty.
Yeah, that G Officer Krupke is a weird one.
It's so catchy though. Like I had it stuck in my head for an hour after I watched the movie.
It's kind of it's arguably the most comedic one, I think. It's definitely the more sort of let's make fun of the police officer who never actually does anything because he's a bit useless.
He is a bit useless.
Quite unlike the other police officer who is, as I referred to him, the doctor from the end of Psycho.
Oh yeah, shit.
It's the same guy who's all like, but the mother's side of the brain, that has taken over. It's that guy from the end of Psycho. He is a despicable human being.
Most of the people in here are quite despicable.
Yeah, that is true actually. But he's a special kind of horrible. He's like making fun of unspeakable things.
Ugh. But you need a character like that in there for the audience to hate.
Yeah, you do sometimes. It's very easy to hate the guy. Very easy to hate the guy.
I guess naming the song after Officer Krupke just felt better lyrically.
Then, what's his name? Officer Schranken or something like that?
Yeah, I can't imagine the song being called G Officer Schranken.
Well, he's the less comedic one of the police officers anyway, so it kind of works more like that.
And
I like that song.
And I Feel Pretty is an interesting one for me, because I love that this musical, even in the 60s, has a song like that, which is kind of empowering. But it's weird. It's weird in the sense that it kind of... I know this is going to sound odd, but it sort of comes out of nowhere.
It does come out of nowhere. My God, it comes out of absolutely nowhere.
And
It's
this
just
is a
after
musical.
the is it not like just after the sort of intermission bit?
Yeah, I was so surprised that my copy had an intermission. And I actually sat there waiting for 10 minutes while it came back on.
Good, because that's what should happen. I love it when Oliver has an intermission like that as well. It's wonderful. I took advantage of the intermission as well, which is just perfect. Oh well, I'll go make another drink then.
I couldn't bring myself to go make another drink because I was afraid I was going to miss something.
But yeah, I Feel Pretty comes like directly after that, and it's just like, it's clear what it's saying, because she's obviously very happy with her secret relationship with Tony at this point, and she's feeling really great about it. She's feeling really great about herself, and that's where it comes from. But yeah, I don't know whether it is the weird. That's a catchy one. That's a really goddamn catchy one, and it does come out of nowhere.
There's something my brother says, because he's not a fan of musicals, is that he doesn't like how it randomly just goes into them singing and then music comes on. This moment feels a lot like that. But it's still a great song.
It's a great song. This is definitely one of the songs this, along with actually America and Maria, are the three songs that I knew but didn't know were from West Side Story.
I'm going to bring it back to, I don't know why I'm mentioning this so much times, but Glee also did I Feel Pretty, but they mashed it together with TLC's Unpretty, and it's pretty awesome.
See, this is
You're
why
not a music
this is
fan,
why
I
I
know,
can't do
but
Glee.
For most part, when they cover West Side Story, they do the whole song, but I Feel Pretty was one that they mashed up together.
I don't know. I just remember I Feel Pretty from Chandler's dad on Friends. That's where I remember I Feel Pretty from. He, of course, being a gay transgendered man.
Indeed.
Quite different to what I Feel Pretty is actually trying to say. And it does a much better or a much more positive job in West Side Story than making it this weird burlesque gay anthem song.
But it's interesting to me that they've changed the lyrics for that now in later performances. It's not I feel pretty and witty and gay anymore. It's I feel pretty, witty and bright, and it says I feel bad for any girl who isn't me tonight, which kind of makes more sense to me lyrically, if I'm honest.
Yeah. What's the second line?
It's and I pity any girl who isn't me tonight, or today in Moody's case.
Today, okay. I don't know.
Just as well they pick those two words that can go together, like with today and tonight. Like, if they had to change it and they couldn't think of something to rhyme it
I don't
with,
think they would have changed it. I don't
bad.
think it's necessary to change it anyway. People with half a brain just... You don't, like, read an old book and see the word, I felt gay today, and you don't immediately just think, oh, well, he's having some tendencies. you just think, oh, he's quite happy with himself today. That's all you think. Anyone with half a brain should recognise that, as far as I'm concerned.
I suppose it works for the time, but the other number the other number I can't not mention is another one with Tony and Maria, and that's Tonight, which is...
That's a good one.
It's like some kind of power ballad kind of thing, and it's probably one of the ones I remember from West Side Story the most. Like, I have the soundtrack on my phone.
Of course you do.
It was one of the things I listened to at the gym.
Oh, what?
Weirdly.
That's weird. Don't do that. Weightlifting. I feel pretty. Oh, so pretty. Weightlifting.
Some people listen to EDM at the gym.
Here?
I'm listening to West Side Story.
Oh, no.
This movie's just so good.
My headphone fell out for a minute then, so I didn't hear what you just said, but I presume it was good.
I did. I said this movie's just so good.
It is. It's very good. And that Tonight is a great song. It's another of the more sort of love type songs. And it's really quite nice. I like those. I do like those in West Side Story more so than the like G Mr. Krupke ones that I just feel like weird. Oh, we need a song to put here. Well, let's put this weird one in. Like,
speaking of that,
feels more like it fits in with the plot.
A Boy Like That. What's your thoughts on that?
A Boy Like That. Now, which one's that? There's a lot of damn songs.
A Boy Like That Would Kill Your Brother. Forget that boy and find another. It's just right after Bernardo dies.
Does Anita sing it?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's another that fits in really nicely.
Yeah.
It's, and it's another one actually that sort of shows at least Anita's sort of discrimination
Point of view,
almost to white people, because it's not one-sided, the racism in West Side Story. It's the Puerto Ricans hate the white guys and the white guys hate the Puerto Ricans. It's quite obvious. But I feel like that is sort of her saying of just don't trust white people, basically. But at that time in the story, it fits really well, and it's another one of those that I feel is a vital to the plot of West Side Story.
Before I mention the final plot part, which I think sums up this movie perfectly, I just realized that we forgot to talk about the Jet song.
Oh, right at the start.
Yeah, like when you're
Yeah.
a jet, you're a jet. You will stay to your last cigarette, to your last dying day.
That's a daft one.
But then again, cool is kind of daft as well.
They're all, yeah. I think all the ones that aren't to do with love or race relations are a bit daft.
So,
Yeah.
your G Officer Krupkes and your cools and your jet songs.
Jet song. Yeah, it's quite early on actually, isn't it?
I do wish though that the Sharks got their own number like that. That wasn't just like part of another song.
I must admit, I was expecting them to, and obviously because this was my first time watching it after, the Jets all had a song. I was expecting it to just sort of seamlessly flow into one about the Sharks as well, and then it didn't. And for that sort of second, I thought, oh wait a minute, is this gonna just like focus on one side of this gang war? Are we actually going to go and look into the Sharks or the Puerto Ricans at all? And we do to a good extent, no more so than in America, I think. But yeah, that was sort of my little type thought that I had near the start.
And near the end, I had an even bigger type thought, because if you know the story of Romeo and Juliet, you know
Everybody
how
dies.
this story is going to end.
Everybody dies at the end of Romeo and Juliet. Well, the Romeo and Juliet do anyway. Do Romeo and Juliet die in West Side Story?
No.
No,
but
they don't.
Tony dies tragically
does
in their
die.
gang war, and sort of metaphorically, Maria dies as well, because
I get that.
The whole message of it is, look, me and Tony had was love, even though it was like insta love. It was still a form of love, and all the gangs have is
love.
hate.
Yes, they do.
And I thought that was a nice little juxtaposition, a good little message to end off of. It can be seen as a little cheesy, but when you have Natalie Wood just giving it her all at that final scene and just breaking down like that, this is getting to me.
I think it's a fantastic last scene. I really, really do. I don't think it's cheesy at all. Obviously, the story has progressed now, and Tony believes Maria to have been killed by Chino who is the other Puerto Rican guy who Maria was, supposed to be going out with, who's barely in it, but yet somehow has this massive role. Basically, he's not happy about the whole situation, like as he wouldn't be. I think he's the equivalent of, if I've got this right, Paris in Romeo and Juliet. It's been a while since I've read Romeo and Juliet. I think it's Paris.
Might be. Any theatre fans, correct us in the comments.
Please do. Or Shakespeare fans, anyone. But yeah, Tony basically is sort of running around trying to find Chino and shouting for Chino to kill him too, because he believes Chino has killed Maria. Of course, Chino hasn't actually killed Maria. And they sort of meet at the park where a lot of gang moment scenes happen at this central location of this basketball court. But yeah, and he's like, "Oh, Maria, yes," and they all run to each other, and Chino steps out of the shadows and straight up shoots Tony.
Chino is the worst.
Chino is the worst. Chino and Officer Shrek, Officer Shrek.
Oh,
There's, we've brought it in. There's one for you.
This time you brought the Shrek references in.
Nobody expected that one.
Oh man, this is Shuggy's gonna love this.
Yes, he is. That one's for you, bud.
We're calling him Officer Shrek now.
Officer Shrek. He looks a bit like, he doesn't look anything like Shrek. Right, Tony's dead. Tony's dead at this point, or dying at least, and basically the whole of both gangs just sort of come into the scene, and almost it's the full recognition of something that has just been completely unnecessary, and it's just all gone horribly wrong. And I think in that final scene we see the gangs sort of become genial with each other. I think if you were to look a month ahead on the ending of this film, you would see the two gangs being quite, distantly pleasant to one another, not getting involved in any more violence because they see what it has done to both Tony and, of course, Maria, who is completely broken on the floor next to Tony. And like you said, it's a metaphorical death for her. And Natalie Wood does give a pretty incredible last scene performance in West Side Story, saying, like, what is the quote? Something like, "I didn't know how you guys could fight between each other because I didn't know hate, but now I know hate. And
should I kill you?
And should I kill you or should I kill you?" And she's just pointing this gun at anyone. It's a great final scene. I do really like that final scene. I will definitely be going back and watching West Side Story multiple times in the future, when I'm on a bit of a musical kick. Because,
well, if you do come round my flat to visit, then I'll happily put it on, and we will torture my brother by singing along to America.
Yes, I'll be I'll be the women. I'll be the women if you want.
Fantastic.
Although I have a deeper voice than you.
That's true. So, final thoughts. I think we both love this. So what are we going to do next week?
Well, I actually don't know what we're going to do next week. But before we actually do get on to final thoughts, I did want to bring up the fact that West Side Story won 10 Oscars.
Deservedly so.
10? That's huge. It's ridiculous. I didn't realise it had won so many.
Did it win more than La La Land?
Yeah, it won more than La La Land. La La Land won like 6.
And yet people say La La Land is overpraised, but then you have something like West Side Story, which gets 10 Oscars.
Do you think West Side Story is overpraised?
Not necessarily. I think the... I imagine I think the stage show might be a little bit better, but this movie's still really great.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I was Because obviously, as soon as I sort of had put it on, I was just like, okay, let's give a bit of a search of West Side Story. Wow, 10 Oscars. And then I was just watching it, and it actually ended up being quite clear why it won so many Oscars. Because if you think about it, it's a musical. Yes, check. It's about love. Check. Somebody dies at the end and there's a big, powerful final scene. Check. It's about race relations. Check. And there's whitewashing involved. Check. All the things the Academy loves.
Oh, God. But speaking of that, we know Mr. Spielberg is planning a remake.
Yes, let's talk about this before the end.
I don't hate the idea, if I'm honest. Because
intriguing. Very
think
intriguing.
about it, Broadway and the West End reboot their shows all the time. So why can't we have like
Of course they do.
what would the modern day version of West Side Story be? I hope they don't just say it in the 60s again. Like, bring it up a bit and see if you can take some modern context and make it even more powerful.
Yeah. I think, weirdly, musicals are one of the few genres that I really kind of don't mind remakes of. Because
there's loads of them.
There's loads of them, yes, but you can always update songs. Or, like, just have new people. Of course, keep the songs, but just update them with, the new people. And a remake of West Side Story, I think you'd said it definitely today. And today's far more diversified New York City. It'd be really interesting to actually get to some of the current race relations within the city and the US, because God knows they haven't lightened up in the past 50 years.
No, but I also do not want to see the Jets and the Sharks just roasting each other on Twitter.
That would 100% be the marketing campaign. We might have to contend with that. But at least you would feel that I don't know even if it would be Latino people. It could be white guys and black guys. It could be white guys and Latino guys. It could be white guys and Asian guys. It could be anyone.
I'm just looking up. I just had a casting idea for Maria, but I want to make sure the actress is Latina.
Let's presume they're gonna keep it with Puerto Ricans. Really, I think they probably should. It's the most reasonable thing. Obviously, don't cast white people though. I don't think they would do that today anyway. I think that everybody's more tapped into what's to what's a reasonable thing to do, and they just normally.
Only for Tony though, because I think he's the only Caucasian member of the cast.
What about the rest of the Jets?
And the Jets.
Yeah.
Because this just popped into my head, but I don't know if the actress is Latina.
Cast a New York guy as Tony, but
I was just thinking, because The Greatest Showman was on my mind. What if you had Zendaya and Zac Efron as Tony?
I think Zendaya is Brazilian by heritage.
I'm not sure. If you guys know what heritage Zendaya is, let us know.
That's not a bad shout, actually. That's not. I don't hate that at all, but I do. I think she's Brazilian by heritage, so it's the same continent. Mm-hmm. It's the same continent, but I don't know.
But I do
cast who you want, Steven.
I like that Steven Spielberg is doing open auditions for this movie, because I've seen people post their auditions on their YouTube accounts, and if an unknown actor or actress got this part from that and got to star in a Spielberg production, that would just be really cool.
That is really cool. And Steven Spielberg, say what you will about some of Steven Spielberg's more recent films, the man...
Crystal Skull.
Not Crystal's. Crystal Skull's about 12 years old. I'm talking like Bridge of Spies and The Post and things like that. Despite things like that, the man's not lost his knack for delivering just impressive filmmaking. I think if anyone could make a faithful remake of West Side Story, someone like Steven Spielberg can, who is such a visual director, and West Side Story is such a visual film. Again, it's in perfect, beautiful, lovely Technicolor. The best way films have ever looked is with Technicolor. Nothing will ever top, in my mind, the look of a film in Technicolor. West Side Story has so much colour in it, and it's just so vivid and vibrant, and I love it all. And I think Spielberg could tap into that very much, and bring that out and deliver us a respectable remake.
I just thought of this now, and I've looked it up. What about Lin-Manuel Miranda as Bernardo?
Yeah, he's on everything. He likes musicals.
He does. We're still waiting for that live-action Hamilton movie that's probably going to happen.
Oh, I would think so. It's big enough, isn't it? What is it? The phenomenon of Broadway.
I mean, the next couple musicals we have coming out are A Star Is Born and Wicked. I don't know of any others that are as big as that. But
are these films?
Yeah, Bradley Cooper's remaking A Star Is Born, and Wicked, which I've been waiting to see a movie of for ages, is finally happening.
A film of Wicked? Did I see Wicked?
Did you see it on stage?
I don't know. Did I see Wicked?
If you did, I'm jealous.
Did I see Wicked, or do I just think I've seen Wicked?
If you've seen Idina Menzel singing Defying
No,
Gravity,
I haven't seen
yes.
real Wicked. I think I might have seen some sort of knockoff version.
It wasn't The Wiz, was it?
It might have been.
The Wiz is awful.
No, I don't think I have seen Wicked. I don't see any, quite frankly.
I mean, they are very expensive.
West Side Story, I would actually quite like to see the stage production of. I will admit to thinking, as I was watching the film, like knowing that it was a stage production, sort of how that would go about, how a stage play would play out, because it's very fast paced at times with the dance numbers, and there's a lot of movement going on and a lot of distance covered, and obviously stages aren't that big. So I don't know what was going through my mind when I was thinking that, but I was sort of trying to direct my own stage play of West Side Story. Not that I've got any knowledge of how a stage plays out at all. Well, maybe a little bit from when I was like 7, but I don't have that kind of knowledge. I don't know why I was thinking of that, but I would go and watch West Side Story on the theatres.
I would as well, and I think that'll wrap us up. So you got anything happening on your own channel? I know you released something that's pretty cool.
Yes, I did. I just want to make sure you're okay to wrap up now.
Yeah.
You're okay to wrap up?
I think we've covered everything.
If Nolan's okay to wrap up, this is his episode. I'm okay to wrap up. Yes, what were we talking about? Yes, my little project, which is absolute nonsense, and I've loved doing it. Guy,
I love the way you sell things.
I know, I sell things so perfectly. I am the best thing. I'm the best person to sell their own creations. Well, it's not even my own creation, really, is it? Guys, do you like ghost stories? I know that's got nothing to...
Ooh, yes.
But do you like ghost stories? And how would you feel if I read some ghost stories to you? If your immediate answer to that question is, oh God, yes, then you're in luck, because that's what's happening on Purple Dawn YouTube channel, which is, of course, if you're on YouTube right now listening to this, it is one of the featured channels on this channel. Or if you are on audio only on iTunes or wherever, go to YouTube, search Purple Dawn, and you will find, as of now, the first ghost story reading I have done, which is M.R. James's A School Story from 1911. It's a really good story, and I enjoyed reading it. I've recorded a load of these, I'm looking forward to releasing them. I'm looking forward to reading so much more because I love ghost stories. And please give me feedback on them. Do you like my reading? Because I feel like I need to improve that if I want to continue doing this for the long run. And I have, like I said, I have recorded quite a few of them, but this is where we're starting. M.R. James is a master of the ghost story, so it was only right to start with him. But go and check that out. Thanks, guys.
Which I have heard and I very much loved. I mean, you've got
Thank you very much.
You've got a real knack for this kind of thing. If Moonflower gets published and we need an audiobook narrator and you can sound like an 11-year-old girl, I'm definitely hiring you.
I could do a decent impression of an 11-year-old girl. In a recording I've done of another story by M.R. James called An Evening Entertainment, I had to basically tell the entire story as I was an old grandmother.
Oh, that sounds fantastic.
So look out for that in the coming weeks. I don't know when that'll be out, but it'll be out in the next few weeks definitely. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Nolan, what are you doing with yourself?
Well, when I'm not doing a bunch of schoolwork or watching movies for this show, I'm making video essays.
He is.
And I just released... did I mention my last one? I just released one yesterday about Boyhood.
Yes, you did.
Which is part of a rebranding for my video essay channels. It's going to be stories as lessons. I've got a nice little intro.
It's a lovely intro.
I've also set up a Patreon account for it, which I've received a couple pledges for. Thank you very much to Randall, Billy, and Joe. You guys are awesome. And
we love all three of them.
Yes, and I can mention what my next essay is going to be. I've been teasing it on Twitter, and I just finished writing the script. I can warn you right now, it's going to be very unfortunate, because I'm going to be talking a series of unfortunate events just in time for the second season of the Netflix show coming out. I love those books, and that's pretty much what I'm doing these days. And you said you didn't know what we're doing next week. I guess it's going to be a surprise.
Guess it's going to be a surprise. I haven't chosen yet. Sorry, guys. I've no idea what I want to do for next week. I might put a poll out. in a couple of days. Or I might put a poll out like a day after the episode goes up, asking which of the three I've chosen.
And if he's done that, the poll will be up now.
Yeah, I guess it will. Recording and putting out at a different time. That's what we do here. Yeah, the poll will be up now. Fair enough. And you can choose basically what, out of three at least, what film we do for episode 8, because my brain is garbage, as we all know. And I'm confused. Well, I'm not confused. I can't make a decision. I'm very indecisive about a great many things, and It's a Wonderful Podcast is one of those things. But that is what we are both doing. Do you want to do the plugs for the podcast, seeing as it's your episode?
Of course. If you guys like this, follow us on Twitter on @It'sAWonderful1, hashtag with It's a Wonderful One, like, retweet, give us the comments, give us your Shrek fan fiction, put him in West Side Story.
He's already in West Side Story.
And,
let's not forget, he's already in West Side Story.
Is.
Rate and review on iTunes as well, do that.
Yeah, of course, we've got a rate and review on iTunes, because iTunes is hosting podcasts, which
wonderful.
I keep forgetting it does, honestly. And with that, I guess we will lead it off. So you can sing goodbye first.
Oh, you want me to sing? Oh, that's what you were hinting at there. That's why there was a little pause, was it? You wanted me to sing? I'm not singing now. No, you've had my singing. I've sung 2 lines of Maria, and that's all you're getting out of me.
You got a rocket in your pockets. Keep cool, boy. There you go, guys.
Before we go, got a rocket in your pocket sounds very suspicious. Goodbye, guys.
Goodbye.